Nakamura has been pretty rough. I mean, there's things like that, I guess. It's just general stuff like that. I can't think of too much from like Ring of Honor or New Japan that was disappointing, and I don't see a lot of impact. And NXT is usually pretty solid, so I think that was pretty much the area of things for me, like the Andrade Almas or Sanity, or
to me,
like that. Yeah.
Another big one was Bobby Lashley.
Yeah.
Just not even, and through no fault of his own. I mean, just the booking of Bobby Lashley has been terrible. The Revival being gone, there's been plenty of things that you could be disappointed about in WWE. You could just put Raw, just slap Raw on there. That's fine. All right, what else we got for me? Where are we going now? You know what? Actually, why don't we go to Promotion of the Year? On this Promotion of the Year for me, it was a toss-up, but I went with NXT, and I'm having them separate from WWE this year. They just didn't put on a bad show. There hasn't been one NXT takeover where I was like, oh man, that thing sucked. Never once. There's been New Japan shows where I watch, like, that was okay, but there's never been an NXT takeover where I'm like, man, that was just okay. Everything was great. The whole year, everything was great. They have good storylines. They have good matches. They do have the one-off thing that doesn't really make sense, but every organization does that. But for me, consistency, stability has been NXT through and through.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think for me it's NXT, and you mentioned a lot of good reasons for that. But also, it's just if I just kind of take it as at the face value as far as what TV show I watch every week and what promotion I'm most invested in, it's NXT. I mean, I as far as Raw and SmackDown is concerned, we can go on and on about those types of those things, but they're not must-see shows right now, and the majority of the angles and storylines on the shows are not ones that are really compelling, at least to me.
Like a must-see, right?
Right, yeah. Must not see TV. So, yeah, I mean, I think in comparison, Ring of Honor, I feel like is solid, but NXT feels like a hotter brand. Or at least it's been a hotter, more consistent brand this year. And it could be because they have an influx of talent, whereas ROH kind of loses talent. It has to recycle itself. So, they have
NXT is getting Ring of Honor's talent. That could be part of it too.
So Ring of Honor might be in a tougher position as far as having to stay consistent, which I think they've done a nice job of doing. It's just that I think that NXT is a better brand. And New Japan's a little bit of a different animal because they're more about the big shows and the lead up to the big shows and not like a weekly TV show. I would say NXT for sure. They've been on a roll for a little while, and they've had several good takeovers, and they always seem to deliver. So I'm going to go with NXT as well.
Okay. All right. So we've got Match of the Year, Men's Wrestler of the Year, and Card of the Year left. Where do you want to
go? Let's go with Card of the Year. How does that sound?
Card of the Year was a tough one, man. Like I said, there were plenty of great takeover shows. A lot of them stood out to me, but for me, the one card that I watched the most this year was New Japan Dominion. It wasn't a triple main event, but the top three matches, that was Ospreay versus Time Bomb, Okada versus Omega in 2 out of 3 falls, and then Jericho versus Naito. What I liked about that show is all three of those matches, you got something different. You got the Ospreay and the Hiromu in the Cruiserweight 205 Live-esque juniors match, a lot of crazy spots, high flying. Okada Omega, you just got a wrestling, just a pure wrestling classic. And then Jericho Naito, you got a great street fight. And 3 huge matches, 3 amazing matches, 3 different matches to me. There were some other good things on that card. There was a Bullet Club 6-man tag. A lot of other good matches. But to me, Dominion is a card that stuck out the most.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good NXT cards. I mean, I think, I'm kind of like what we were saying about best promotion, and NXT for me is that one, and a lot of them are really, really good. It was hard to really judge because they all seem to have so many and there's different matches, and I guess it was just we were at the show in Brooklyn, and so it may be biased of me to say that show, but I feel like
biased, dude. It's 2018. You can be what you want. You can be a Penguin if you wanted to.
Yeah, I might have to look into that actually, but yeah, I think Brooklyn is the one for me. Just the tag match that opened the show with Undisputed Era and Mustache Mountain was excellent. The Velveteen Dream versus EC3 match was fine for what it was, but I thought the storyline building up to it was good, and the fact that Velveteen Dream went over was also good. And the Adam Cole Ricochet match was excellent for the North American Championship. Kairi Sane beating Shayna Baszler, which was kind of a surprise to me for the NXT Women's Championship, and then
Awesome.
yeah, Gargano and Ciampa having another great match in a last man standing match for the championship. So just top to bottom, and like the in-person experience was just great. So I'm going to go with NXT Brooklyn.
You know, being that close and really just soaking in the action. That was honorable mention. That was my next. That was one I was tossing in between. So that was a great card too. I would agree with you completely. I still remember the crowd reaction on Ricochet's handspring into Adam Cole's super kick.
Yeah,
legendary. So that was awesome. So all right, so we're down to match of the year and wrestler of the year. Where do you want to go?
It's a tough one, man. I feel like, well, we said we were going to bookend it with the wrestlers of the year, right? At least I said that. So
you did.
So I don't want to be a liar on this show. So let's go with match of the year.
I got 3. Again, being a homer. You know what? No, it's my list. I can put me versus the vacuum cleaner if I wanted to.
That's right.
For me, the match of the year was LAX versus CCK, Progress, New York City. We were there. Literally tore the house down. Impossible to follow. One of the best matches I've ever seen in person. Calamari Catch Kings. However, Kid Lycos got hurt. So Jonathan Gresham took his spot, and it was LAX versus Gresham and Brooks. And it was hard to explain. There were so many false finishes. These guys literally beat the heck out of each other. It was like I think 25-minute match or something like that. If you have it, if you have Progress, go see it. That match was outstanding.
Yeah, that was an excellent match to watch in person for sure. And it was a little unexpected. I guess you really know what you're going to get at a show like that. But they really kind of went all out. So that's a really good choice from you. I had to think about this one for a little while. There's a lot of matches that kind of run together for me. And sometimes I forget about stuff that happens earlier in the year. So I went back and I looked at some of the cards, and I remembered that at the NXT show in Philadelphia from Royal Rumble weekend,
wow.
The title match was Andrade Cien Almas versus Johnny Gargano. And it's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember it being like blow away good at that time. And that's saying something since there's a lot of really good blow away matches in NXT. But it was for the title. It was over 30 minutes long. There was a lot of believable finishes in the match. And, so I went with that one. I think Gargano's just really been a really, really good wrestler for a while now. At least since I've been watching him, and probably long before that. So I'm going to put Gargano versus Almas for the NXT Championship and take over Philadelphia as the match of the year.
I'm not going to throw a flag on that at all. What'd you have? What else did you have?
I mean, there was a bunch. I mean, I saw. I'm trying to think back to like Wrestle Kingdom, and I think it was Omega and Jericho had a really good match on that show, which I remember liking a lot. What else? What was the junior heavyweight match on that show? Was it Tanahashi and?
It was a 4-way, I believe.
Not Tanahashi, Takahashi. Excuse me, Takahashi and whoever it was on that show with Yujiro Takahashi, whatever.
Hiromu Takahashi.
Thank you, Hiromu Takahashi.
I believe it was the 4-way. It was Takahashi versus Ospreay versus Marty and somebody I'm forgetting. It's gonna bother me now.
Yeah, but I remember that being really good. I think as far as main roster matches go, I don't know if there's one from WWE that stands out to me.
I tried. I went back and I looked up things and nothing. Like if you went back and you looked at the Wrestle Kingdom card and you'd be like, oh, okay, this match stood out to you and you remember it because of how good it was. I went back over almost every WWE main pay-per-view this year, and no match jogged my memory like, holy cow, that was a good match. I remember that. I think that's really saying something about what the product is right now too.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Just nothing really. I mean, usually you could think off the top of your head and be like, oh yeah, that match was good or that match was good, but like nothing really nothing really stood out to me. So yeah, so those
He's like AJ Cena last year. Remember that? Like that to me immediately when I thought of match of the year, that stuck out to me.
yeah. So I mean those ones there I think were good. I mean, I just had another one that was in my head. I can't remember if it was another NXT match. Oh, the North American Championship, the ladder match where they had like 6 guys in it, where the first champion. That was really good. I think it was a lot longer and had a lot more spots in it than I expected. So those are probably a couple of ones off the top of my head that were runners up to my choice of Gargano and Almas.
I also had Pentagon versus Omega in there. Omega versus Okada 2 out of 3 falls match, of course. Gargano versus Ciampa from NXT Chicago in the no DQ match with the DDT on the board ending, which I thought was awesome. Had a lot of run-ins, a lot of fugaziness, but that was good. And then one match that really stuck out to me, that was actually on NXT TV. It was Undisputed Era versus Mustache Mountain from July 11th. Is when they were working over, I can't remember if it was Tyler Bate or
Trent Seven's knee, yeah, and they threw the towel in. Yeah.
Right, and then Tyler Bate had to throw in the towel in the end, and that was just such a throwback match in this era, done so well. I remember watching that match like 3 times, and the finish was amazing. So that was one of the big ones to me too.
Nice. So we're down to male wrestler of the year.
Yes, sir.
So this one, I did try to think about it for a while too. I mean, 'cause someone came into my head right away, and then I wanted to think about it a little bit and kind of see if that thought was correct or if there were any other options out there that I thought would be better. And a lot of guys have had good, consistent performances on television. And we talked about Gargano. You could talk about Ciampa, even a guy like Aleister Black from NXT. Jay Lethal in Ring of Honor has had a lot of really good matches. He's kind of taken over as far as carrying it again. And the guys from New Japan as well. Of course, you have the same crew of guys, the Okadas, the Omegas, the Tanahashi, and guys like that. But I just felt like this year, Seth Rollins really stood out as far as a consistent performer from the beginning of the year all the way up till now. He has had like 1 or 2 clunkers in there that I think people were not so thrilled with. I'm not sure that that's all on him. Yeah, the Ambrose match, and I think the 30-minute Iron Man match with Ziggler, where people were chanting for the clock, I think was another one. But for a guy who has to basically work, he basically has to wrestle every single week on television and on pay-per-views, whereas some of these other guys from NXT and New Japan don't have to do that. And I think Rollins really stood out with his performances and getting decent matches out of guys who maybe aren't very good and having really good matches with guys that are good. And he had that gauntlet performance at some point earlier this year where he wrestled for over an hour on Raw, and people were kind of standing and cheering him as he was leaving when he finally got eliminated. So, he's made the Intercontinental title mean more, I think, on Raw, whereas before it was kind of just changing hands between different guys, and it was on The Miz and whatever. So I think he deserves it this year, even though he's had 1 or 2 matches that maybe didn't live up to the standards we were hoping for. But I'm going to go with Seth.
Not a bad pick. He didn't come to my mind, unfortunately. I thought about AJ Styles, but to me, like I just thought wrestler of the year. I took everything in totality. I match quality, but also impact. Impact Wrestling. Dixie Carter's my pick. No, just character development, everything. And I had to go with Tommaso Ciampa. He's the best heel, I think, in the business right now. I think I'm not. I don't want to sound like a jerk. I don't want to accuse anybody of anything, but I think Daniel Bryan is taking a lot of notes from Tommaso Ciampa. Would you agree with that?
I think in some aspects you could find similarities there for sure. Yeah,
there are some there. Daniel Bryan is doing some good stuff right now, and I don't want to say he's the wrestler of the year, but to me, Ciampa kind of set the standard for how a heel can conduct themselves and get heat in 2018 when it's tough to be a heel and tough to get over as a bad guy and get people to actually boo you. Ciampa, even from social media to in the ring matches to crowd and everything, he didn't wrestle as much as clearly any of these other guys here, but to me, Ciampa has been the top of the top, and he's a guy that I, just stood out to me all year long, from his return to even the promos he cuts week in and week out in NXT. To me, Tommaso Ciampa, 2018 male wrestler of the year.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, coming off the injury he had, and making his comeback, and I think his NXT title win, at least to me, I mean, I read the spoilers, but it was kind of surprising that it